Welcome to our 2014 St. Louis MMA show. I'm Debo, joined by Knuckle Junkies editor Brett Otten. Today, Brett, we're going to take a look at the nominees.
And also, stay tuned for our interview with 2013 Pro of the Year, Josh Sampo.
Make sure you get your vote in. You can follow everything at knucklejunkies.com. And the nominees for Amateur Fight of the Year: Charles Johnson versus Matthew Null, fight hard. Michelle Pierce versus Ronnie Lawrence, fight hard. Marissa Smith versus Gina Begley, rumble time. Denver Sells versus Ty Flores, cage champs 50. Garrett versus David, cage champs 50. Now let's take a look at our Amateur Fight of the Year. It consists of several different promotions and a lot of good fights in there, Brett.
Absolutely. You know, you got two from Fight Hard, two from Cage Champs, and then Rumble Time sliding right in there. One thing that kind of pops out, it's kind of been a year of the ladies, and two ladies fights right off the bat.
Michelle Pierce and Ronnie Lawrence fighting on the Fight Hard promotion. Two very popular fighters, and they both were able to garner a certain amount of success on that promotion this year.
And I mean, I could say personally, I mean, the Marissa Gina fight kind of swayed me as far as, and it's a bold statement, on women's MMA, especially locally. Watching that fight and seeing the skill and technique and the athleticism involved in that was an eye opener.
Well, I think that just goes to show how fortunate we are here in this area in regards to WMMA locally and regionally, with Gina coming out of the Kentucky area to take that fight against Marissa.
You know, it was a great night out in Sullivan, Cage Champs with Patrick Smith celebrating show number 50, and what a way to do it. You had, Patrick's next up-and-comer, Denver Sells, fighting Ty, and those guys really put on a show if you're a fan of the slobber knockers. And, but a night that will maybe go down, a fight that will go down in history. You had Garrett and David, lots of media attention. You had a documentary crew from Great Britain out there in Sullivan filming that fight, and it may end up being a groundbreaker.
I think that that's really interesting, talking about the Garrett and David fight at Cage Champs. Chance for us to be a part of history. And there you have it, our Amateur Fight of the Year. And the nominees for Amateur Fighter of the Year are Nick Pullman, Arian Zekti, Ty Flores, Michelle Pierce, and Jordan Dowdy. The future's bright for our Amateur Fighter of the Year.
No doubt. I mean, there's plenty to choose from, on here, and I'll just kind of start off talking about the year Michelle Pierce had. Kind of bursting on the scene. Kind of being the kind of taking the mantle there at Fight Hard, getting those big fights, winning that belt in front of those huge crowds.
I've had the opportunity to see Michelle Pierce train at the Academy of Courage, and she definitely stepped her training up over the last calendar year. Shows in the cage.
And you got Big Nick, out with the Cage Champs. It's a prestigious honor getting the Spire belt, and then everyone's favorite Arian, getting a four-man tournament. And winning that belt, that's no easy accomplishment.
Well, just to touch on Nick real quick, had an opportunity to officiate him when he was in high school playing football out of Owensville. Looking forward to seeing him fight in person. I've seen several of his fights on tape. He's just a beast in there, so it doesn't surprise me that he's having the success he is. Arian, again, I agree with you. Strong, young, up-and-coming fighter, and I think 4 fights in a calendar year definitely says something about where you stand.
Well, speaking of beasts, you got Ty Flores coming in, late charge at the end of the year, getting that huge win we discussed for Amateur Fight of the Year out at beating Denver Sells out at Cage Champs, and then a guy who's kind of been under the radar, but going 4-0 after taking a year off. You got a guy out at CMMA, Granite City, Jordan Dowdy. Jordan just crisp, clean, rugged guy, and a solid fighter. Is probably going to turn pro this year.
Yeah, definitely. Jordan Dowdy is a quality fighter, trains hard. He takes the sport serious. He respects the sport. It's one thing that I love about him. I was running into a little tough luck this year, but he seems to keep grinding, one step forward, and I agree. I think he's going to, if he can stay healthy, I think he'll have a successful future as a professional.
So plenty to choose from for Amateur of the Year. The choice is up to you.
The nominees for Pro Fight of the Year: Lucas Gawaltney versus Adam Sella, Shamrock FC. Adam Meredith versus Joel Blair, MMA Sport Federation. Raul Rosa versus Kirk Huff, Rumble Time. Eric Irvin against Tyler Combs, Rumble Time. And Sal Woods versus Garrett Gross, Shamrock FC. And now let's take a look at our Pro Fight of the Year. What do you think, Brett?
Well, I mean, this could be a one-horse race, and in the fight I'm talking about, you were able to witness in person.
An incredible fight, Lucas Kowalny versus Adam Sell on the Shamrock FC promotion at River City. 3 rounds of just warfare. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course you got Joel Blair in there, and Joel Blair has kind of slowly turned into one of my favorite fighters just because of the performances he's given in the last year or so. And you could put hardly any you could put any of Joel's fights into maybe Fight of the Year candidate, and this one performance for the MMA Sports Federation against Adam Meredith, one of the best and up and coming pros around here, was as good as any. And then over in Rumble Time, Kirk Huff, another one of the top young pros around here. We had a guy come in from out of town and give him a nice challenge and maybe surprise some people with that. Eric Irvin had a great year, and came back with this main event win. Used all the tools in his tool belt to get that and close it out. Sal Woods, everybody's a fan of Sal, who's been around, and Garrett Gross at Shamrock. Great back and forth, and then unfortunately, if you're a Sal fan, the 3rd round, Garrett with a massive shot to end the thing. So obviously, a lot to choose from. Pro fights of the year. Every year, there's great pro fights in St. Louis.
And there you have it, our Pro Fight of the Year. The nominees for our National Pro Fighter of the Year are Tyron Woodley, Alex White, Jake Collier, and Robert Washington. Now we take a look at our National Pro Fighter of the Year, Brett.
Great category. Here it is. Here's the big dogs.
Definitely. Tyron Woodley, a guy that's from the area. We spent time in his gym. Just tell us your thoughts on T. Wood.
Well, what can you say? Everybody knows, T. Wood, 2-1 this year, a great win against Dong-Young Kim and also Carlos Condit, so, a lot moving forward. He's got a great fight coming up against, Minnie Kane. Kelvin Gastelum, which as always, T was right in the thick of things. That's going to sway where he goes.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys who's ascending. Things really interesting about him to me is he is so in control of his career, even within the UFC.
Right. Great, good guy to kind of pattern things after. And then you've got Alex White, who really burst on the national scene. His story and kind of his plight to where he came from really garnered a lot from the USA Today to any kind of major MMA media outlet. And he started his career great fight of the night performance, has gone 1-2, just coming off a recent decision loss. But Alex had a great year, like I said, and even with those losses, but his name and his market value has just risen.
I think the thing about Alex White that stands out with me, being able to watch a fighter fight from the local to the regional scene and then ascend to that UFC scene, so you kind of get kind of an eye test of what you're watching as these fighters kind of work that course and come up the ranks.
Speaking of ascending to that scene, the prototype, Jake Collier, as of this filming, just one fight, but a huge fight. A guy comes off a long layoff, goes in and wins the RFA middleweight strap, and does so by submission against a vaunted jiu-jitsu brown belt, I believe. And Jake comes in there and gets it done by submission, bursts on the scene, gets the UFC, signs with the UFC within a week, has his son. I mean, great story. And Jake has always been a personal favorite of mine as far as fun to watch, and I can't wait to see how his UFC career goes.
Well, definitely, I couldn't agree with you more in regards to Jake Collier, somebody that we've spoken before, that you've turned me on to. I know that he was injured, had an injured hand, and the thing that's been interesting to watch is how he was real serious about what he was doing and where he wanted to go, because a lot of times those injuries, you see fighters slack off in their conditioning, and he obviously did the other little things that he was able to do to keep himself in the mix, to get right back in there, winning the RFA strap like you mentioned, and then signing with UFC.
Obviously, and one of our favorite guys, man, Robert Washington, just a great guy, and what a great year he had. Started off the year fighting locally with a big win. Titan swooped in, picked him up, and he had won his first fight with Titan. Last one was a split decision, really close fight that could have gone anywhere. And Rob is another one of these guys who he's been around the block a lot, but within these last 12, 16 months has kind of really got focused and just shown how good he can be.
I think the thing about Robert Washington is the kind of guy that can keep himself in the mix on quality promotions because he comes to fight, he trains, he takes the sport seriously, he respects the sport. So,
yeah, there you have it, the big dogs, the National Pro Fighters of the Year. Pick it. We're here with 2013 St. Louis MMA Pro Fighter of the Year, Josh Sampo. Josh came back, has a busy 2014 that we can kind of talk a little bit about. Obviously, 3 fights in the UFC in 2014 or 2? Or just...
three. Well, one was in last Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't know if that one qualifies for that year, but yeah, I've had 3 in the past year.
Right. And a trip to Ireland, a couple losses. I mean, no hiding behind that. Just kind of looking back on the year, some lessons learned. And what have you picked up?
Definitely. We had a lot of tough fights. Like fought Zach Makovsky in February, really tough guy. But we realized from that fight that we have to make fighting our sole venue right now. Like I was teaching full-time, coaching full-time, and then trying to be a professional fighter, and it was just, our plate was too full. So, and that cost us a fight. It wasn't that I wasn't in shape, I wasn't prepared to fight. Everything was going like everything we wanted, but my timing was off, probably about a second or two. So I mean, that really cost you in a 3-round fight. And then so we battled back from that, waited till the year was over, took another fight in July, I believe it was, went to Ireland. I did not realize how much that flight was going to take out of me. We got to Ireland. I unfortunately got hurt the day before I left, but I've dealt with injuries and I didn't realize the extent of that one. But I kind of masked it anyways. Went and fought. When we landed in Ireland, I was 20 pounds over, so the weight cut was a little more than I expected. Plus the jet lag and all that stuff. But we worked through a lot of adversity there. A lot of personal stuff went down, but we took care of that. Went in there and we threw down as hard as we could. That's a great thing about fighting. One punch can completely change the outcome. Got clipped. Thought I was going to finish the guy, had him in a deep arm lock, and in transition got caught. But like I said, that's the beauty of the sport. That's the nature of the beast. Anything can change on a moment's notice. So we were fortunate enough to be able to experience Ireland, which is really cool. So we got a little bit of culture shock out of that. Just realized how much different the world is outside of the U.S. So it was a blessing to go there.
The nominees for our Regional Pro Fighter of the Year: Lucas Gowaltney, Hugh Pulley, Eric Irvin, Scott Futrell, and Vincent Ezel. And now we take a look at our Regional Pro Fighter of the Year, Brett.
Yeah, these are the guys who are aren't in the UFC or RFA, but are kind of sniffing around that range, and obviously have garnered some big fights locally. First off, Lucas Gowaltney. We talked about his performance with Adam Sella. Kind of really catapulted him back into the St. Louis fight fans' frame of mind. Went 3-1 this year, and just picked up his last loss. He's always fun and exciting to watch.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that with him, he's going to get in there and he's really going to bring it. Do whatever he has to. Has a strong striking game, but kicks well too. So kind of guy, I think the thing about him moving forward is when you sign him, that he's going to come to fight. For
sure. That's why he's such a fan favorite. And Modern Combat Systems has two of their guys in here with Hugh and Scott. So and they're always fun to watch.
Yeah, Hugh Pulley, definitely fun to watch. Again, coming off his first pro defeat. I've always been a big Scott Futrell fan. With him fighting on the pro level now, some of his health concerns kind of do concern me a little bit as far as what he'll be able to do to take the next step. Hugh Pulley looks the part, though.
And one of our favorites since Knuckle Junkies has started, the Hedgehog, Eric Irvin. He's always right there, and quite often, maybe doesn't get the limelight as some of the other locals have had. But here's a guy who's put in his time, and and quietly put together one of his best years, best 12-month stretches of his career. And, you know, kind of creeping in the shadows, you know, we've kind of expanded out a little bit. And, you know, Vincent Ezel, who is no stranger to St. Louis fans, over in Springfield, Illinois, you know, doing everything but knocking on the UFC's door. You know, I think he's like 9-0 now. And, you know, I know he comes around here to train. He fights locally here at times. And that's just definitely a name to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. Vincent Ezel, had a chance to watch him on the Rumble Time card at the Chase Park Plaza event early last year, actually, and he spent a lot of time in the area, as you mentioned, since then. I think he's probably the most ready for a step up to a big promotion. So there you have it, our Regional Pro Fighter of the Year. The 2014 Story of the Year. 7 different St. Louis fighters compete in the UFC. Typically, at the end of the year, we like to focus on some of the top national stories out there, but this year we're going to bypass that with the biggest story being here locally, with us having 7 UFC fighters right from this area.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You know, when we first started knucklejunkies.com, there was one fighter, Lance Benoist, who was fighting in the UFC. And, you know, to see some of these guys, the Chris Heatherleys and the Alexes and the Colliers come through, and the fact that 7 fighters with the St. Louis in the UFC is just a great accomplishment for this region. And, you know, everyone involved from the coaches to the promotions should be proud.
And I think, you know, you mentioned several fighters from this area in the UFC, and we just touched on Alex White a little earlier in our discussion. And again, I think we're so lucky to be able to see the development of a fighter who pursues this as a profession, from the local to the regional to the big stage on the UFC.
So the real winner of this is the fans of St. Louis MMA. And so I want to thank you all so much for your continued support, and let's have a great 2015.